Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Today I'm continuing my reflections and forecast series where I sit down with senior executives across the life science and pharma value chain to get their thoughts on the last 12 months and their predictions for the next 12 months. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Christian Jones, who's Chief Commercial Officer for Nanoform. And today we're going to find out a bit more about Nanoform and his thoughts on the challenges from last year and some of the trends for this year. So Christian, first of all, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi there, Rizwan. Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
And where are you calling in from today?
From Helsinki, from our headquarters in what is now a brighter Finland time of year. So,
well, you'll be pleased to know the sun is out here in Surrey today, so at least it's shining in Blighty as well. Now, a quick question for people who are not familiar with Nanoform. Would you mind just giving us a quick overview of who Nanoform are and what you do?
of course, Nanoform are a nanoparticle medicine enabling company, and we use our technologies to advance medicines in development, those that are on the market, and those that are, coming to the market, to improve the lives of patients. We're focused on creating innovation that is impactful for patients' lives, whether it's making better medicines that are more convenient to take, or whether it's truly enabling medicines to be delivered to patients to provide better clinical outcomes. And we're a team of about 150 people now. When I joined about 4.5 years ago, we were only 18 people. So we've grown quite considerably in that time. And yet we still have a great culture, a very positive environment to work in, and a great place to be.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving me the overview, Christian. Now, first question I ask everybody about 2022 is, how would you describe it in one word and why?
2022 or Nanoform's time in 2022?
Well, I suppose how you describe the year, and obviously it does relate to Nanoform's time in 2022 as well.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting period because we're transitioning out of the COVID era of the previous 2 years, when we all sort of locked down and changed our habits from a traveling perspective and in many ways the sort of day-to-day business perspective. I think 2022 saw people trying to get back into the previous sort of habits that they had pre-COVID, but all at different rates. And I think from sort of middle of 2022 towards the end of the year, we certainly saw large pharma starting to travel more and get back to conferences and be more engaged. But I think the biotechs have been more agile during the year in general. And of course, we were very busy attending lots of conferences, but we had a significant amount of activity towards the end of the year. But it was a very busy year for Nanoform. We achieved quite a lot, both operationally, but also from a sales perspective in the relationships that we had with customers as well.
Right. Okay. So I still never got the word out of you. This. What word would you describe it though? If you talked about the year, but you didn't tell me what word you'd like to describe it as.
Progress.
Great. I haven't heard that one actually, so that's great. So you touched on it just now in your answer though. So looking back on the last 12 months, I know you've had a busy year. So what are some of Nanoform's achievements in 2022?
Well, I would reflect back on some of the achievements we had with customers. We had successful collaboration and positive outcome in the work that we were doing with AstraZeneca in their technology assessment of our CESS technology. We were able to publicly disclose that has been concluded in a positive way, and that they've now moved into the identification and implementation stage of working with Nanoform on the CESS technology. We had fantastic results that we were able to talk about with our partner TargTex, based in Portugal, around the glioblastoma work that we'd done, where Nanoform had managed to increase the drug load by 200-fold in this hydrogel based drug delivery system for the brain, and where we had developed the formulation as well, And we had worked with Targetex to prove the value of the technology for their amazing product. And ultimately, you know, these types of things about bringing hope to patients. We also, you know, tripled our capacity in terms of GMP in Helsinki. So we've had one GMP unit that we've had up and running and has been approved by the Finnish Medicines Agency. And this last year saw the growth operationally of Nanoform in the GMP area, where we've tripled that capacity, and we now have 3 units, 3 GMP suites that have been built. And those GMP units, the new ones, shall we say the first one, was already able to handle potent materials down to 1 microgram per meter cubed.
Right.
The 2 new ones are able to go down to 30 nanograms per meter cubed OEL, so a safe bridge category 3B. And this gives us the ability to handle almost all chemistry that in the small molecule space and apply our technology much more widely. And there's very few companies that are able to make nanoparticles, even fewer, and I'd say maybe we might be the only one, that can make nanoparticles from solution and in the high potent space. So this is a really unique offering for the pharma industry and something we're very proud of.
Well, congratulations on that. Now, looking from an industry perspective, looking back in the last 12 months, what do you think some of the big challenges have been out there that the industry have faced? How do you think they've actually sort of dealt with them? What other developments have you seen within the sector?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's been a challenge from a financial markets perspective. The macroeconomic impact on the pharmaceutical industry has been significant, and I think there's been a lot of biotechs that have struggled in raising finance. I think there's a good proportion of the market though that have already raised finance pre last year and sort of have got enough money together to support the drug development over the next few years. You know, Nanoform, we were very lucky to have raised money in our IPO and subsequent fundraising. So we're in a very strong position to go forward. But also our partners, those partners that we try to support are those that, you know, they're also financially stable. But it's a challenge because, you know, innovation comes often from the small biotech companies.
Yep.
And you know, large pharma has to a greater extent outsourced a lot of that innovation to those small biotech companies and the risk around the drug discovery engine. I see that potentially changing going forward, and I think large pharma will be looking at some of this innovation to see what can be brought in to them at an earlier stage to support that innovation so it doesn't die. I think in general, last year, aside from the macroeconomic turbulence, we also saw a real push towards sustainability. I think you know, the environment and sustainable manufacturing has become a hugely important area of focus for the pharma industry. And this, coupled with the increasing demand for onshoring of manufacturing activities, I think is a very interesting area. One that Nanoform can support on both of those fronts. You know, our technology is a green technology. In fact, as you know, Rizwan, we've got 2 technologies. We've got the small molecule technology, SES, which is all around carbon dioxide, used to process these molecules to make them into nanoparticles. And we've got our biotechnology, which is actually also doesn't use organic solvents either. And so both of those technologies are green. The SES technology actually uses CO2 that's produced as a side stream of road salt manufacture in Finland.
Right.
So that's processed, that's captured and then reused and refined into clinical grade CO2. And one of the other achievements last year was we installed a 40 meter cubic CO2 tank outside of our Helsinki headquarters. And that's clinical grade CO2, and that supplies all of our R&D lines as well as our GMP manufacturing lines. And, you know, green is important for pharmaceutical manufacture, but doing things smartly. doing things in a way where we can bring technology and innovation into to make products more sustainably, I think is very important. And this is another area where our technology plays a huge role, and that's in the ability to deliver drugs effectively. And if we can deliver drugs effectively, either by increasing their bioavailability or by delivering them in the right transport mechanism to the body, we can use less drug. And by using less drug, we can have a huge impact on the chemical synthesis that's required, all the downstream activity and upstream, and the formulation activities as well, and the logistics. And so we can have a big impact on the carbon footprint of a drug that's being manufactured by using our technology. And working with our partners and understanding the maturity of our relationships, I think was another progression for us, because as we've grown over the last few years, it's been less about can you make the nanoparticles, more now about what value do they contribute to the product, and how are they going to impact the supply chain, and how are they going to impact our pharma partners' portfolios of drugs. So I think we're seeing our relationships maturing to a different level with our pharma partners, both those that are the smaller biotechs and the major pharma companies, which is great.
That's brilliant. That was really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So, look, my final question related to 2022, though, is were there any areas you think the industry could have improved upon in terms of what it was doing?
Yes. I think that, as we look back and then look forward, I think it's important to look back at what happened in the COVID period.
Right.
Because what happened was there was a major crisis, and everybody globally got together to try to solve that crisis.
Yep. True.
And that forced people to collaborate, and it forced people to be innovative and to do things differently. And the adoption of RNAi technology possibly wouldn't have happened for some period had it not been from COVID. And I think this is a great example of how technology and innovation, we live in a very conservative industry in the pharma space.
Yeah, we do.
And this technology and innovation is there. It's there right in front of all of us. And yet sometimes it won't be adopted because we're so conservative in our approaches as a pharma industry. But COVID forced people to innovate. It forced people to do things differently. And I think it also showed us how quickly a drug can get to the market. It doesn't necessarily need to be 10 years or 12 years to get a drug to the market. Things can happen quickly if we do things creatively and we think outside of the box. And so I think going forward, looking ahead, there is such an opportunity for us as an industry to be more collaborative, to do things differently, to partner, to share ideas, to be creative, to work towards the common goal, which is to help improve the lives of patients.
Well, it's really interesting you say that. I mean, we'll talk about collaboration. Collaboration obviously comes up a lot when I have these interviews when people talk about it. And as you said, COVID highlighted that without collaboration, you wouldn't be able to get the drugs out to market so quickly. So do you think, though, that with the easing of COVID, for want of a better term, I know some people I speak to actually think COVID hasn't gone away and it might even get worse again, but if we just assume that is the case, do you think that the industry is now going back to its conservative ways then, and where they were great to collaborate because there was this common goal, and now everyone's going back in their shell a little bit and saying, actually, now we're going back to how we used to be pre-COVID?
I think there's a great risk of that. I think there's a great risk of that. And I think even the some of the practices that we learned during COVID, the remote working, there were benefits to that, right? There were definitely some significant benefits to being able to work remotely and do things differently. But we lost out a lot, from a communication of being able to see people face to face,
yeah, sure,
and to work together. So I think there's potentially learnings that we should take from the COVID period, and I think it hopefully will give people an idea of how to do things differently. But I think there's a great risk that people will just fall back to what they know and what they're comfortable with. But I think that we all need to remember that actually we should stretch ourselves. We should go outside of our comfort zone to explore what's possible, and to explore how we can really drive together create value, and it's often by doing things differently.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's talk about 2023 and how things might change going forward. As a company which has got its feet in both small molecule and large molecule, I think you're an ideal person to talk about this. So what do you see going forward are going to be some of the big developments across pharma and biopharma?
That's a good question. I personally, I think that the use of AI will be hugely impactful going forward. Everybody's talking about ChatGPT, but before ChatGPT, everyone was talking about AI as well, and it clearly is, a hugely valuable way of working. I think innovation comes from people. It comes from people's minds and ideas and the creativity that they can create. But I think that the tools and technologies that we have at our fingertips in the digital innovation space can really help us to propel and advance and accelerate our innovation forward in a different way. And I see that being applied across all different areas of drug discovery, drug development, manufacturing, even clinical trials, and thinking about the way that the drugs are delivered. From delivery systems to wearable technology, there's a huge opportunity for AI and for machine learning to improve the delivery of medicines, and that's irrespective of whether it's a small molecule or a biologic.
Sure.
I think the challenge still remains, though, for the small molecules and the biologics, that they are complex in their very nature. Small molecules have become larger as drug discovery has evolved. A lot of the small molecules, the simpler ones, have already been used and discovered, and now we have these more complex molecules. And those complex molecules have been enabled by innovative chemistry technologies that can create them, and computational software that can model and understand how they might behave in the body. And we've been able to be more creative in the types of drugs that we're developing. And I think that's only a good thing. But at the same time, that represents challenges, because the more complex we make the medicine, the more we need to think about how that medicine will be delivered. And that's where we come in, for both the small molecules and the biologics, to support these fantastic medicines, to enable them and increase the likelihood of success in them reaching the patient.
And let me ask you then, so talking about AI and machine learning, how has, or I'm sure you'll have plans to, but how much are you using that at the moment in your current processes in terms of your drug development processes?
That's a great question. So we do, and you may recall our star map technology. So this is a sparse data AI-based approach that can look at the structure of a small molecule, and it can predict whether it's a good fit for our CESS technology. So it predicts on two axes. One is on the solubility of the molecule in supercritical carbon dioxide as a function of using our process. And the other one is it predicts the propensity to crystallize as a function of being nanoformed. And those are two components that are often very important for our partners.
Right.
To know, is the process going to be efficient for the volume of drug that we're looking to produce? And actually, we want crystalline or we want amorphous in our end product. So we use this AI to be able to screen very quickly and to avoid experimental wastage. So sometimes we get biotechs that come to us with a single molecule, and they say, hey, we've got a problem with this molecule. We'd like to understand whether your technology can help. The first thing we do is run a star map analysis, and we say, do you know what's a really good fit, or this could be slightly challenging? And that helps us to define the scope of work around the experimental, and we don't waste time and effort for our partners. And then we have other clients that sort of really want to say, well, what's possible? I want to explore all the drugs that failed in phase 1 and see if I could resurrect them, or I want to look at all the drugs that are on the marketplace and see if I can make better versions of them. And so those types of conversations are fine, but you need a tool to be able to screen quickly to select the right candidates to work on. And again, that's where our StarMap technology comes in.
Right. And now, apart from AI and obviously the use of new technology like AI machine learning, are there, you talked about obviously the markets, the money markets, in terms of the challenges in the last 12 months. And obviously we've seen about some of the banks in the States this week. But what do you think is going to be the situation from a financial perspective going forward for the next 12 months?
If I had a crystal ball, that would be great, and I probably wouldn't be doing this job.
No, nor would we all. You sure?
But no, who knows? I think we obviously the market has been challenging from the war in Russia and Ukraine to COVID to everything else, the interest rates hikes by the Federal Reserve, and they've all impacted the marketplace. And have we seen the bottom? I don't know, but I'm confident that that it will improve. But the question is when, and when's it going to pick up? So it's very easy to get concerned about the markets. What we need to do as a business is to focus on what our deliverables are, and what our deliverables are to our investors, to our shareholders, but ultimately to our customers and to the patient. How can we help to develop better medicines and do what we said we were going to do, and make sure that we meet our goals and meet our objectives? And that's the only thing that we can do. We can't control the markets, but what we can do is deliver against what we said we would do. And I think that's where I'm very pleased with all the activity that's going on, both internally in the company and externally with partners. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how 2023 it's all about, last year I spent a lot of time building a commercial team, and we have a fantastic team. Very proud of the team that we have and that I've been able to attract to Nanoform. This year it's about getting power out of the engine and delivering results, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that will shape up.
All right. Okay. Well, look, my next question was actually going to be about drug development. Now, as a company who is innovative within that space, what are some of the developments and trends you expect to see around drug development in 2023?
That's a good question. I think there is, we talked earlier about the opportunities that were created as a function of COVID in sort of RNAi space, and what's also come out as a result of that is the use of nanotechnology in that space, and I think that's a great thing. I foresee, I think let's just pause the answer to that question. And I think what would actually be really interesting to say is, how did the pharma industry market perform last year, and what was predicted, a few years ago? And if I'm right, and if I can recollect, back in 2020, which is when we did our IPO, we were looking ahead at 2022. And the prediction was that the industry would spend about $200 million on R&D, and there'd be 60 products on the FDA that would be launched. The reality was, last year, I think it was about 238 billion that was spent on R&D, and 36 or something like that were actually launched on the marketplace. Now, if that doesn't represent a productivity problem, I don't know what does. So I think, looking ahead into drug development, coming back to the start of this conversation around the opportunity to be more productive, to be collaborative, to really think together and to achieve great things by working together. What I hope to see in drug development is that people do collaborate more, that people are more open to external innovation, and that we see more combined approaches to develop drugs. that can help advance medicines to get them to market, to get them to the patients that need them.
Right. Okay. Well, look, again, you touched on this a little bit in your answer a bit previously, but what can we expect from Nanoform in 2023?
Well, I'm not going to say small things. Maybe what we make. Small is powerful. I hope very big things from Nanoform in 2023. We will have this year. We have as I mentioned, the 2 GMP suites that have been. We will have those inspected by the Finnish Medicines Agency. That will be a very positive outcome. We obviously will progress the client relationships that we have ongoing and add to those with new partnerships, new collaborations. We have targets this year to meet, both from a sales perspective and an operational perspective. And ultimately, as you would have seen, last year we announced that we'd raised money to invest into identifying a US facility. We're very much engaged in that process, and we're going through that process with an organization in the US to identify the right facility for Nanoform to see our expansion. So I would hope that we would have some further news in respect to that. I think it's about broadening and deepening the client relationships in 2023, but it's also about providing value, and value in a way that's not just about making nanoparticles, but it's about proving that they can deliver value in the medicines. And I think that's an area that we have really expanded on in Nanoform. If you think about the word Nanoform, we're a formulation company that uses nanoparticles. And ultimately, we have created some significant experience in formulation now to really understand it's not just about making the particles, but it's about how you deliver them. And I think that's really, really important. So I think hopefully we'll have some exciting news to share around the formulation space, around our nanoparticles. And we look forward to sharing that when we can.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you for that, Christian. It's always interesting talking to you. You managed to get small is powerful into the conversation as well, which is good. And now, my final question for you really is: any last words for the viewers watching today?
Well, next week I will be at, depending when this goes out, I'll be at DCAT in New York with the rest of the US commercial team, and be delighted to meet anybody at the event. But also, if you can't meet us there, we'll be at lots of other conferences this year. But we've launched a brand new website, so please check out our newly improved website, www.nanoform.com, and you'll be able to learn a lot more about the types of things and innovation that we're bringing to the marketplace.
Fantastic. Well, look, Christian, I have to say, you and I met way back in 2019 at the back end at DDL conference, and I know because obviously having spoken to you and worked with you since that period as well, a lot's changed since you and I spoke way back in 2019, and the company has grown, and you've obviously expanded the technology into many different areas as well. So congratulations on all those achievements. So there you go, viewers. If you would like to know more about Nanoform, then feel free to check out the website which above the video. If you are at DCAT, so hopefully this video will be out before DCAT, then please get in touch with Christian and the rest of the team to make an appointment. I know they're pretty booked up, but they may have a few slots still free. So try and do that. And if you can't do that, then they will be at numerous events throughout the year, which again, you can check out on their website and on the LinkedIn page as well. So Christian, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. And I'm grateful that you didn't bring up the 7-0 beating that United got from Liverpool, even though I had the shirt still up behind me. So I'm very grateful for that. So thank you very much. But thank you once again for your time. I hope you have a safe journey to DCAT and a great show. And I look forward to catching up with you in person at another event in not too distant future. So viewers, if you've got any questions based on what Christian said today, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'm sure he'll be only too delighted to answer any questions you have in relation to what he talked about today. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.